Hello, and welcome to Tips for the Transition. I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, your host. I get inspired by helping women move beyond coping and surviving major life events so they can learn to thrive. Today, I'm talking with a woman whose world was turned upside down when her husband suddenly stopped. When her husband's heart suddenly stopped while driving the car they were in, and she narrowly escaped with her own life. That was a little over a year ago. In the aftermath of the trauma and the grief, she learned many lessons about life, love, and learning to live again. Her name is Lisa Decker. Hello, Lisa, and welcome to Tips for the Transition.
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much for having me.
I am very certain that this story you're about to tell is going to resonate with many of our viewers who have experienced a sudden loss, myself included. Would you tell us what you can about the experience and how it unfolded for you?
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me here to share my story, and I hope it will help those who are listening. 2016 was one hell of a year in our household. We had decided, as all the children moved out, that it was time to downsize and move into a home about half the size. And so we spent the bulk of the year merging and purging things and fixing one home and fixing the other, getting it ready to sell, one to move in, one to sell. In the midst of it all, my mother became ill, and I had to go and get her and move her in with us. So we were empty nesters for about a month or so. And then Mom came to live as well. And life was good. You know, we were very excited about this next chapter of our lives. In the midst of our move, around the end of the year, my mother found a lump in her breast and pulled me aside as they were literally taking the desk out from under me to tell me that she had to share something that she was afraid of. And feeling that lump, I knew immediately that it was probably cancer, because it was just like the one I had found in my breast 20-some years before. We found out immediately that she had not one breast cancer, but two, one in each breast, different kinds of cancer. And then upon further testing, they found a third cancer, which turned out to be lung cancer. So a triple cancer diagnosis, which was just unheard of. It was then close to the holidays, and we were very excited because our middle daughter, we have 3 daughters and 2 granddaughters, and our middle daughter was headed home from the country of Chile, where she had lived for the last year and a half, and coming home with her boyfriend, who was Chilean, and some of his family. And my husband of nearly 40 years was, working as hard as could be. We both were getting the house prepared for the holidays and for family. And we had a lovely, lovely Christmas day. Unfortunately, the day after Christmas 2016, things took a tragic turn. We started that morning agreeing that it was first day in a year that we could take a rest. We really had not taken off more than a couple of days the entire year, and we agreed that we were going to just take it easy that day. And next thing I knew, my husband was calling me from Home Depot wanting to ask my opinion about something he was buying there. And I couldn't really tell from the pictures, so he came back and he got me, and we went over and we got the things that we needed. And as we left the store, he started to tell me he wasn't feeling well, even though he couldn't really tell me what was wrong. We were stopped at a light, and suddenly he said he couldn't move. Those were his last words. And the light changed, and we had to go. We were surrounded by cars every which way we turned. It was just, massive traffic. And I told him to, go through the light and pull over, and I'll get out and I'll help you, not realizing how serious things were, because he was very calm. And as he started to go through the light, is my first inclination that something was terribly wrong, because he wasn't turning. We were supposed to turn left. We were heading straight into the oncoming traffic. And that's when I had to take control of the wheel. And we narrowly missed, a head-on collision. We went up an embankment, we went around poles and wire tethers to the poles and missed a drainage ditch and all kinds of things. And then I finally was able to steer us and get us back on the road, only I had no control over braking the car. And by the grace of God and by the love of my husband, somehow that car managed to slow down enough for me to throw it into park and to stop the car. I immediately ran around to the other side of the car and saw, you know, he was unconscious, and stopped a passing car because I had forgot my cell phone. We were only going to the store for a few minutes. And as they were calling 911, I jumped back in the car and I gave him CPR and I brought him back to life. And I will tell you that there is no words to describe breathing life back into someone. And I'm so grateful for that moment, because he came conscious just long enough to tell me that he loved me. And I knew it was also that he was saying goodbye. I'm sorry, this is still very raw. I continued to do CPR, waiting for the ambulance. Ironically, the car that stopped and called 911, the woman in the car, while her husband was calling 911, she's a nurse, and she told me at that point, don't do any more. You've got, you know, he still has a pulse. And we waited and waited for 911. And in the meantime, this event that I called a nightmare went from traumatic to traumatizing. It became so because of passersby who stopped, and while I know their intentions were good, they literally made the situation worse, made it surreal, made it feel as if I was actually in a nightmare that I could not wake up from. And that situation has caused me to have PTSD from this, to have dealing with this trauma, and you know, trying to resolve this. And I'm doing pretty well with that. I'm going to talk about that in another segment. But one of the lessons that I learned from this is, you know, if you cannot stop and do something productive and help, please don't stop at all, because they literally made the situation worse. Unfortunately, my husband did not make it. He died of a heart attack at the age of 61. And, you know, our family is learning to find the ground again and find stability. And I will tell you, one of the gifts and the blessings that came from it is that love never dies. And I can attest to that fact, and I'm going to share my more of this story. But he continues to send me hearts, and this right here, I don't know if you can see that. This massive heart is a rock that I found the day after he died, and I asked him to send it to me.
Oh.
And it's amazing to me. I don't know if you can see, his initials are literally carved in this rock. So it is truly just supernatural and mystical and amazing, and I am grateful for that. So that's my story, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you even more of the blessings that have come since his passing.
Oh, Lisa, I am so sorry. I remember when this happened for you, and I remember all of the beautiful things that you wrote along the way and shared with your friends and the people who just love you and follow you. And it was an amazing journey that you took us on. So I thank you so much for sharing what you've been through, because there are so many of us who have experienced loss in one way or another, and sometimes don't know what to do with the grief that we feel and how to see the lessons from the experience. So I'm so grateful that you're sharing this with us today. And I want to thank you for being so vulnerable. And you inspire me. You've inspired me for a long time now, friend, but especially over this past year. I love the conviction you seem to have to find the blessings and the lessons in your experience.
Thanks.
So in our next segment, folks, Lisa is going to share more about what she has learned and what this journey has brought to her. And I think you'll enjoy that part of the story. So thank you very much for joining us today. Her next segment will be tomorrow. And I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan. Till next time.